coming to the concert at Frost on Saturday. So,
All right. That's cool. Glad you'll be.
but I got cast my first week in Gaieties as an actor in that show, which was hilarious and insane, and I was the only person from my freshman dorm doing it. And so that I got a little taste of kind of the theater scene on campus, which was super super fun. And then the show went up in November, right before big game, and then everyone went home for winter break, and I was crazy enough to apply to produce the show that January of my freshman year. So, and they were crazy enough
Wow.
to pick me to produce it. So I completely didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was just this little fiery freshman bossing a bunch of people around. But it was the best experience, I think, to be honest, because I kind of hit the ground running, and I didn't know anything that I was doing except that I just loved my experience with it, and wanted to create that great experience for everyone else. So it was something that I think really trained me for my role here, because it wasn't so much about producing as much as it was dealing with lots of different people who with lots of different personalities, and communicating with people that were very artistically driven versus technically driven versus with the administration. I had a bunch of bouts with them, which was fun. Got into some hot water over jokes that were in the show. It was pretty wild, but I think I fed off of that energy of constantly putting out fires day by day. And when it was over, I kind of looked around and was like, oh man, like I missed this, even though it was the most insane, crazy, 10 months of my life ever. So, and I think from there, I really kind of caught the bug and was like, hey, I could really see myself pursuing entertainment as a career. And so I declared I was an English major with a film emphasis. Um, and I took a lot of classes that dealt with adaptation from book to film, which has served me well in my job, actually, what I'm doing here. Funny enough. But yeah, I mean, it was great, and I continued with Ram's Head, and rose up through the ranks. I was in the cast for Gaieties. I produced, yeah, the sophomore year show. I was in the cast for my junior and senior year, and then I also produced a fourth show on the side through that. I was very involved in the Stanford Film Society. I organized the Sundance trip that I think is still going on, and then I got involved in the Stanford Students in Entertainment group, which had just began my freshman year, to be perfectly honest. That was the first year that they had done it. There were a bunch of alumni down here, and then a friend of mine was on the board for it and recruited me to help out, and I got sent down to LA over the spring break for the Hollywood spring break trip, and led the trip both my junior and senior year, and then have kind of transitioned into more of an alumni coordinator, I guess, liaison, if you will, on this side once the people that were running it when I was in school had left the industry. So yeah, so that's my Stanford career. And then I graduated in '09. The economy was in the complete and utter shitter. I did not have a job because it's really hard to get a job in entertainment when you're not down in LA, to be perfectly honest, or in New York if you wanted to go that route. They just don't want to hire you. They don't want to even think about it until you're able to at least say, oh, yeah, I can start tomorrow, or I can start today. And so I moved down. It was right after the William Morris and Endeavor were two big agencies down here, the William Morris Agency and Endeavor Agency, and they had just merged that May of '09. Which created a bunch of shuffles in the agency business and, just in the entertainment industry in general. There were hiring freezes everywhere, I think both due to that and the economy. And so it was tough. I drove down literally the day after graduation with my car packed up with stuff and, kind of just hit the ground running and just met with anyone and everyone that would sit down with me. I went through that Stanford alumni database and literally blindly emailed a million different people, And then, I mean, I should back up. I interned when I was in school, before my junior year for DreamWorks Animation, which had a company or a location in Redwood City that has since shuttered. It just shuttered like a couple months ago, actually, which was sad. And then, but I worked on this this short that they show every holiday season called Shrek the Halls. Which was really, really fun, and it was a cool environment to kind of get to see how animation is put together, because it's very, very much a slow moving process, but very different than the rest of kind of traditional production, I'd say. But everyone up north in the Bay who worked in the entertainment industry all hated everyone in LA. They just had this giant prejudice about anyone that worked in Los Angeles or lived in Los Angeles. And so I was like, well, I kind of have to see it for myself. So right before my senior year, I got an internship at Showtime and worked in production for the VP of production of all the original programming. So it was Weeds and Californication and Dexter and all of those shows, which was just really fun to see. And I realized that I really loved Los Angeles. So that was a great experience. And then, I kept in touch with all of those contacts every step of the way. So that when I actually did move down to LA, reconnected with a lot of them. I took a free internship for the first month that I was after graduation for a guy named Aaron Kaplan, who had run the television department at William Morris, and after the merger had decided he wanted to go off and be a producer. And I could tell from the get-go that he was going to be very successful on his own. He shared office space. It was him and Darren Star, who was one of the creators of Sex and the City, who has a new show on TV Land right now called Younger. But it was just them hanging out, and Aaron had an assistant that he had brought over with him, and he was a complete and utter crazy person and screamed and threw things, and that was my first real taste of that, I guess, because you don't really see that at Stanford whatsoever, or in real life normally, to be honest. But it was really interesting, and I worked for him for about a month. I was working for free, and I realized I can't be continuously working for free, and so I was interviewing for jobs on the side as well. And through one of my contacts at Showtime, I kept in touch with one of the associate producers on Dexter, and there was a job opening as a PA in their post-production department. And so I got a job offer to go and join them on their fourth season. I really actually wanted to stay where I was with this guy Aaron Kaplan, and I went to him and said, hey, I have this other job opportunity. I'd rather stay with you. Can you match the $10 an hour salary? And he said no, and so I left. So I worked on season 4 of Dexter, which was on the lot at Sunset and Gower, which was a really, really neat experience, just to kind of see how television.
Someone just joined us. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, so I worked on season 4 of Dexter. In post-production was with all the editors, which was super fun to kind of see that side of things. And it was a lot of driving around LA, and in rush hour traffic, delivering cuts at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. at night, which was pretty hilarious. And then from there, the show wrapped, and I got a job working at a small management company called Industry Entertainment. I was there for about 3 months, and which was my quintessential Hollywood job. I was hired as a trainee by this guy named Keith Addis, who runs the company, and he's one of the first managers in Hollywood. He represented Leonardo DiCaprio way back when, and Matthew Weiner, who created Mad Men, and a bunch, Ted Danson, and a bunch of kind of big people along the way, and had promised me a lot of stuff, and then I worked out of their kitchenette, where I wasn't given a chair, and I restocked a fridge and washed dishes for 3 months. So my quintessential Hollywood experience. but I was there and, looked around, and I was really hungry and, wanted to kind of be at a place that was growing and could kind of see that this place was a little bit on the decline. Had once probably been at its pinnacle in its heyday, but had since kind of been on a bit of a downward spiral. And, from there, I started interviewing at all the agencies. I was very averse to working at an agency, to be honest, from the get-go, because I had heard such horror stories. And look where I am now. So UTA was the first place to call me back, and I started in the mailroom here and have been here ever since. So I started here February 2010. So that's my long and short of it.
And just backing up for a second, how did you land those internships?
The internships, I got very lucky, to be perfectly honest. I blindly emailed a bunch of people. I would email any email address that I got a hold of. There was I believe someone who had interned at DreamWorks Animation who was like a year above me, and I got the contact information for their internship coordinator. And it sent along my resume, and they called me back, and I interviewed for that and got it. And Showtime, it was one of those, I'm sure you guys will see them on their big corporate websites. You send in your resume, and it goes into this hellhole or black hole, if you will, of that you never will get a response ever. And somehow they called me back. So yeah, and I interviewed from there and came down to LA and got the gig. So
wow. And then, what do you think at Stanford prepared you best?
I learned a lot through all of the extracurricular stuff that I was doing. I kind of looked at that in a way as a full-time class each quarter, because I took on a lot, but I liked having my hand in a lot of extracurricular things because I feel like what prepares you, to be honest. But I mean, my role now, learning to read something and articulate it in a really specific way and deal with authors and creative types, I think has really prepared me well in the long run. So I think it's every facet of kind of what I did there. And then, the personal connections that I made with the people at Stanford, I think have served me well all along the way. People here get annoyed with me sometimes because I'm just such a, beating cardinal, if you will. So, or bleeding cardinal. There we go. But I help get people in here if they, are interested in doing it, and, between coordinating that and, I represent a number of people that went to Stanford now, which has been fun, that were either on my writing staff when I produced Gayeties. I represent this woman, Amy Aniobi, who was a senior graduating, who just wrote for season 2, or was writing, but it's airing now of Silicon Valley season 2. She was one of my Gayeties staff writers, which is kind of cool. To authors that I took improv with. So
can you tell us what a typical day is like for you?
Yes, I get that question a lot, I guess. It's every day is unlike any other, to be honest. I'm an agent here in it's called our book department or media rights department. So I represent predominantly authors, journalists, life rights, and basically underlying material to sell for film and television. So things that have come out of our office. We represent Piper Kerman, who wrote this memoir called Orange is the New Black, that became that show on Netflix. We work with John Green, who wrote The Fault in Our Stars. We work with Michael Chabon, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning novelist. And it's a wide ranging thing. We represent Josh Bierman, who's the journalist who wrote a Wired article that became Argo. And I think in this day and age, there's so much more stuff being done in the from underlying material. So that's my bread and butter, at least. But my day to day, it's we have a number of staff meetings. I work in both the motion picture group and our television group here. So it's traditional kind of departmental meetings. I'm on the phone with potential clients. I'm reading stuff really quickly to get on the phone with them. It's, I'm calling producers and studio heads and writers that we represent and work with and sitting down with talent or, it's kind of all across the board. And it's, I'm working morning, noon, and night. It's a full-time gig. So sometimes I'll wake up and have breakfast with, an executive at a production company and then come in for a departmental meeting and then sit down with a writer that, is looking for material to develop a television show. And then I'll go and have lunch with, a publishing agent that we may work with out of, who's in town from New York. And then, meetings and phone calls and emails over the afternoon. And then, dinners or drinks or premieres or whatever it may be. I was at the Pitch Perfect 2 premiere on Friday night because we represent, I work with a guy named Mickey Rapkin who wrote the book that it's based on. So.
Great. And what do you like most and like least about your job and the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of pinch myself that I'm doing this for a job. It's kind of great, especially with what I was doing at Stanford, which, I was an English major and, I get to deal with these authors that I've revered all my life in kind of interesting, fun, creative circumstances. And to be honest, because, my world is kind of so all encompassing, I don't know who's going to be calling every day or what kind of material is going to land on my desk. So I think that's kind of the most exciting stuff. So, I just started working with this journalist on Friday who sent me this book on Elon Musk that's coming out next week. That's going to get a lot of attention, but it's a journalist who's up in the Bay actually who writes for Business Week. And so I read this biography, authorized bio over the weekend that I thought was really interesting that has, is already getting attention to possibly do a biopic on him. So what I like least is that I work a lot. It's long hours and it's sometimes hard to disconnect from all of it because people are chained to email and phones all day long down here. So it's sometimes hard to turn off a bit, if you will.
Yeah. I'm curious if any of you guys have questions for Jason.
Yeah, please.
I want to open whatever you guys want to know. Jason. Whatever it is.
I'm an open book, please.
I guess I got one. So my own interest is in writing, and for like film and television.
Yeah.
And I'm studying like engineering, and I don't think I'd be able to kind of like move to LA like right after school. Like I'd have to try to get like a tech job, pay the bills and stuff. So if you're not living in LA and you're a writer, how do you go about trying to find like representation, be it managers or agents?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, yeah, I think it's a question that I get a lot, and I think people really get hung up on going to try to find an agent or a manager. And to be honest, I don't think you need one when you're starting off. I think you should just be writing and creating, and if you have an interest in writing, then you should get your written work made and produced, even if it's on a low budget scale, and continue writing, because I think that that's going to be the way to get you noticed, and that's what gets people kind of hot, if you will, down here is kind of after the fact. I think the people that are so adamant about finding a manager or finding an agent right off the bat get really muddled in that whole process because it's tough. And I think there are a lot of people trying to hit the ground running even when they get down here, and it's the people that kind of are just doing stuff for the love of it that get noticed in the end. So
okay,
help. Great. Other questions? Things you're wondering about?
Anything, everything.
I have another question.
Yeah.
What was it like to work in the mailroom after you had graduated with a Stanford degree?
Very humbling. But it was funny though, because when I had worked at this management company beforehand, I had said I was washing dishes and doing all that stuff. So when I came to UTA, they had a whole cleaning and support staff, and I thought on the first day I was like ready to like put on my rubber gloves and start cleaning stuff. So it was kind of a reprieve from all of it, to be honest. It's good. I think I actually do encourage anyone that's coming down here to not be scared of the mailroom experience. It's definitely a weeding out process, but it's the best way to learn the industry. I feel like you learn it through osmosis almost. And listen, everyone here, when you work for an agent, when you're starting off, you listen in on phone calls and you just kind of hear the players and how it all is kind of put together. So, which I thought I knew a lot when I moved down here, and I learned a lot more through the agency experience and through the mailroom experience. But you literally are working on your feet out of a mailroom all day long, so it's fun. But I was only in the mailroom for about a month, and I had friends here that were in it for almost a year. It just all depends on specific departments and what the kind of changeover is. So at the time.
And how did you move up from that? Where did you go from there?
Yeah, I worked for a motion picture agent who represents traditional screenwriters and directors for film. And then I worked for the head of our book department at the time, and got promoted from there. So that was it.
Great.
How did you tell your parents that you were going to take a job working in a mailroom?
I mean, they were encouraging. I mean, my senior year, at least I had, I was lucky enough that both my internships that I had over the summers were both paid. So I could kind of save up a little money, but not much. And then my senior year, I did a lot of kind of tutoring on the side, and saved up a little bit of cash. But I mean, it wasn't easy for sure. I think they had already accepted it and were encouraging of me just kind of following my passion, if you will. So, which was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would you say was your most valuable, you did a lot of extracurriculars, but in terms of you did a lot of creative work, it sounds like. So would you say that writing for ladies and stuff, was that really valuable for your resume? Or how did you kind of polish your resume, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, to be honest, when you guys are putting your resumes together for, opportunities in the entertainment industry, it's really trying to sell the leadership. And, there were the internship that I had at Showtime was great, but, it was really identifying tasks that I did and kind of embellishing them in a way to make it seem a lot more attractive than it actually was. So, I could have written data entry for, one of the things that I did, but it was I was taking inventory for, weed season force, accounting or whatever it was. I think there are ways to kind of enhance it to really kind of sell what you're doing to the group down here. And, I mean, through the leadership stuff that I was doing, both in, whether it be the Stanford Film Society or through Rams Head stuff, I mean, it was, a lot of kind of boots on the ground, organizational stuff, but also, I had to hire a whole writing staff. I had to hire a composer and lyricist and create a whole marketing plan for what that show was. And, I think that, I think things that in your head seem like almost minutia are really impressive in the end when you kind of put them all together. And also, to be honest, the amount of people that you're working with on a day-to-day basis.
That's great.
I have lots of questions. I want you guys to ask your questions if you have any. Yeah. Okay, so I do have another question then. What do you wish you knew when you were a student? What do you wish you knew or had done differently?
Well, it depends. I mean, if I knew, that people weren't going to care if I got an A minus or a B in a class down here, I think I wouldn't have freaked out so much. Which is good to know in the whole long run of things. And I mean, I think, you're under a very high stress environment at Stanford, but it is very much that duck syndrome that everyone is just, seems calm, cool, and collected, but everyone's working really, really hard and stressing themselves out. And, I don't know. I was also, I was always afraid that I was going to miss something on campus, and I did not study abroad because of that, and I probably would have done that if I had to go back. I don't know if that answered it, but
no, it definitely did. What would be your top advice to students that are interested in entertainment? Or one or two pieces of advice? Yeah,
I mean, I would just read up on it. There are a lot of kind of resources to check out, whether it be Deadline, Hollywood, or The Hollywood Reporter, or Variety, down here, that will just kind of keep you informed as to stuff going on. But I mean, I really do think that, I don't know, the extracurricular stuff that I did at Stanford really kind of helped kind of guide my path down here. And I don't know. I think you don't really have to worry about it in a lot of ways. I think I've talked to a number of students that have gone on that Hollywood trip each year, and everyone's, the seniors at least have freaked out about oh my God, it's spring break and I don't have a job yet. And, I think you have to just kind of bet on yourself that it will all work out once you get down here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really good pieces of advice, because I know a lot of anxiety. Students feel a lot of anxiety about not having a job or the internship or that kind of thing. So, and then here's just a question: what's been your favorite project you've worked on?
Favorite project.
Or favorite celebrity.
Favorite celebrity. We deal with a lot of them. They are all characters. Most of the talent are pretty tough people to deal with, I will say. That's why I don't work in talent. I work with writers for the most part. But I mean, I'll just tell you, a cool experience for me was, I'm working with this woman, Julie Oranger, right now, who's an author and a short story writer who I had listened to her. She was in the Stegner Fellowship program through the creative writing department. And, when I was a student, I listened to her read from her short story collection, and had been tracking her for a while once I got down here, and now I'm representing her. And so that was a cool thing, I guess, to come full circle from, kind of being a fan and a student there to kind of, working alongside these people that I've long admired. Along the way. And I mean, the same thing stands for, Michael Chabon, who had been one of my favorite authors growing up. And, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay was something that I just loved in high school and read all of his stuff. And once I got here, I got to work with him on kind of a daily basis, and knowing that he's just the coolest person in the world has been really fun. So, but I have to say, yeah, it is really neat seeing something come full circle to go from, the page to the screen. So I read the book for Pitch Perfect I had read when I started here as an assistant, and it was a very kind of dry book about this guy's, kind of foray into, going onto a college campus and watching college a cappella. And it was very much before Glee was a thing, or, any before that movie was a thing. So, and now the premiere on Friday night was pretty much a giant spectacle of, it was at the Nokia Live, while the Clippers game was going on at Staples, and, they had, millions, well, not millions, but thousands of people there all just clamoring for, these stars that were not stars before the original movie. Was just pretty neat to see. So
that's cool. And where do you see yourself going from here? Do you see yourself staying in your role for long?
I really do like it here a lot. It's been fun, and there's a lot of ways of being entrepreneurial, and innovating, I guess, and especially because I think that with what's going on in the film and television industry right now, there's a lot changing. I think the film market is shrinking, and there are a lot, and the TV space I think is growing in such a massive way, especially with what's being offered on cable and all these other kind of outlets, and what's going to happen with the unbundling of cable and the over the top offerings, I guess, with if you don't have to go and buy a cable package anymore to get HBO, and you can just buy HBO, is that gonna affect everything down the line? So
Cool.
Jason, did you have any mentors while you were at Stanford?
Did I have any mentors? My RFs from JRO that are no longer there, both were in the English department and were fantastic, and just encouraging all across the way. But I have to say, it was kind of like I had a very close but wide group of friends all across all the different things that I did, be it theater and the entertainment stuff, and then just kind of the dorm house life in general. I think my peers became my mentors in a lot of ways. So.
And we always hear so much about networking being so important for the industry. What would you recommend for these guys for networking or making connections kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's meeting people that are interested in your similar spheres, if you will, circles. A lot of the people that I went on that Sundance trip with each year, we were camping out for tickets, they all ended up down here, and we have kind of the stories to share. But I don't know, I think the Stanford network, at least down in Los Angeles, has really grown over the years. When I first moved down here, I was really one of the sole people from my graduating class that was down here. And from there, there were a lot more that came down, and, I've stayed in touch with everyone. I've tried to keep people in touch with one another and try to introduce people, kind of all across the board. But I do think it's necessary. I think, you never want to burn bridges either, I've learned, because this industry is so small and everyone knows everyone, that I do think, it's worth kind of keeping in touch, and, I think if people offer their help, I think you should take them up on it to a polite degree, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And are there ways to connect with the alumni down there that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the alumni database on there, I think if you search entertainment, the people that leave their emails and contact information on there actually are okay to be and want to be contacted. And the ones that don't, I think, don't have their information up there for a reason. But there's an alumni group down here. I think, reaching out to the Stanford Students and Entertainment Group up north for you guys, I think, is a good resource in a lot of ways. And yeah.
Okay, cool. That's great.
So speaking of burning bridges, has there ever been a time where you got burnt? Because you always kind of hear you got to be careful going down to Hollywood. People try to pull fast one on you. Besides the kitchenette, and I guess how do you guard against that?
I think I've told writers this a lot that I represent. People do get taken advantage of down here, and in real ways. And I think people look at writing and material as kind of, I use the analogy of like a life raft in a lot of ways, that everyone can be a producer in this town, but they need really strong material to kind of cling on to and stay afloat. So I've seen that happen a lot, and have to give people tough love sometimes. Have I been burned? I think I wouldn't say I've been burned. I just think I've developed a tough and thicker skin down here, and you can't take things too personally, because it's a business at the end of the day. And I think when I was starting off, I really took that, didn't realize that I had to kind of develop that thicker skin. And I think I've kind of harnessed that a bit more. I came down here very eager-eyed and aiming to please, and not everything happens, and it's okay. So.
And how did you develop the thicker skin?
Uh, you know,
I'm just curious.
constant verbal abuse, I guess. I have no idea. I don't know. I think you have to. I think once you decide that you want this and you want to stay down here, I think and you want to excel and move up. I think you kind of just you have to kind of let things drop, fall off by the wayside, drip off your shoulder, whatever my analogy is that I was going for there. But I don't know. I think I had to kind of look at things from more of a macro level and kind of understand that it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems like it's just part of the industry. It's not about you. It's about just that's how people are in that field.
And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer with a lot of stuff. I mean, I love what I do. I think that there's a really cool vibrancy to what people do down in LA, and a lot of great, really fantastic creative people, and smart people. So, and I think it was a big learning lesson for me, and through my interview process, when I was trying to find a job down in Los Angeles, I think your Stanford education will get you in the door, but I think you have to kind of I would tell people like, hey, it's on my resume, but I can throw it out the window, because they don't really care at the end of the day. So they want someone who's smart and driven and who's gonna, do the best for, them at the end of the day. So.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like you were able to just do whatever was necessary, right? You clean the kitchen, stock the fridge.
Exactly. Yep.
Work at the mailroom, and then it really paid off.
Swallow your pride, and then I think I've gotten on to be on the other side of it a bit now, and it's just I've seen how some people treat others, and I just don't want to treat people that way. So, So the way of paying it forward, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have anything you're wondering about? Things about entertainment?
Anything, everything. I'm an open book.
Classes.
I got it.
Yeah, go, please.
I mean, I don't know how much you can talk about it, but like the news between UTA and CAA. I mean, is that?
Yeah, and CAA. Yeah.
Are the papers making a bigger deal out of it than it actually is, or like?
No, it was insane. It was literally insane down here. Yeah, that was why I could not come up, to be honest. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, there were 12 agents that defected from CAA, which is, has known as, people refer to it as the Death Star down here, because it's in this giant building. It's kind of a big conglomerate where, it's one of the premier agencies down here. So, and 12 agents, including, 5 of their partners, left there and basically took their entire comedy department and came over here. So, which was really exciting for us, and to be honest, I think a shakeup that was necessary in the agency business, because some of them are getting very top heavy and are getting outside investment funding and are becoming, I think CAA and William Morris in particular are looking to possibly go public in the future, and are kind of more interested in what their investors are thinking than who the artists are that they're representing. So it's been fun. It's been a wild time, and all of a sudden we have 12 new colleagues and 250 new clients, including Will Ferrell and Chris Pratt and Melissa McCarthy, and it's been fun. So, and for what I do, it's a lot of new players and people to play with. So which is fun, and everyone's been great, and it's been interesting hearing kind of people have grown up in different worlds and or different regimes or whatever, different companies, and kind of seeing what was done really well there and what was not done as well. I think has been a good learning experience for me in particular. So, but it was crazy.
And I've heard it said that, or I've heard people talk about that really you have to kind of work your way from graduation. You have to work at a talent agency to really pursue what you want to do. Is that true, or what would you recommend if someone's kind of
I don't think, I mean, I recommend it to people that I think can take it. And I have had friends come and they call it doing their year here, doing your year at an agency, because they kind of compare working at an agency to doing, it's entertainment grad school in a lot of ways. But I've had friends do it, many ways, not do it at the agency, go and get a job working as a writer's assistant, or just writing on their own. So I've seen it happen very successfully, and not so successfully. So, but then I've also seen people work in an agency and get burnt out really quickly, and so it happens. So the long and short of it is there's no right way of doing it down here, I'd say.
This is kind of going off of that, but people who do go into agencies like hoping to do creative work down the line, I have heard that is a possibility, but how does that work? Because, at agency, you're not really doing creative work. So is it just kind of the connections that help you?
Well, you'd be surprised because it's, the agencies are kind of the hub of all the information on, a day-to-day basis. And you're dealing with the creatives, though. Like, as an assistant, I got to interact with all of these different creative people. And, you develop a relationship and a rapport. And then they're like, hey, I'd really like for you to look at my script first. Like, can you give me notes on it? And so you start developing these relationships from the get-go, and then, they blow up and they start their own production company, and then, they're looking for an assistant or an executive, and, suddenly there you are. So I do have to say that, from what I do, a lot more of my stuff is a lot more creative and producerial than I think a lot more. I think a traditional motion picture or television agent is a lot more transactional, and they're just, out there trying to fill open writing assignments and open directing assignments. And for me, because I'm working with source material a lot of the time, I have to kind of put my producer hat on and think how best to put this project together. Is it going to be for film? Is it going to be for television? What kind of producer should I try to attract? What kind of writer, a high-end screenwriter or showrunner should I try to attach to this? Does it need a talent element? Do I need to go and try to find an actress or an actor? Is it more of a director's piece? So I think because of that, it's a lot more creative than it gets credit for, to be honest.
Good point. That's actually really helpful to understand that. We have a couple more minutes with you. You guys have anything? You just have been so clear.
You have to have something.
Anything? What are you guys kind of interested? Because you said writing, right? What about you guys for entertainment? What's kind of your what are you thinking about? I guess I should think. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm mostly comedy.
Comedy,
great.
A lot of stand-up and writing.
Okay. Stand-up and writing. Any suggestions there? Recommend?
Well, we represent a lot of them now. With all of these new, so, but I mean, like, I mean, with that, it's just constantly be creating and, performing and getting out there as much as possible. So, do you perform with like any of the sketch groups on campus or the Simps or?
I perform with the Simps now, and there's also a stand-up comedy group on campus.
Oh, cool.
That we weekly on campus and then off campus occasionally.
That's great. I would totally. That's awesome. I was in the Simps when I was in school. I didn't take improv until my winter quarter of my senior year, and then I got into Simps for my spring quarter senior year, and I loved it. And a lot of people do improv, and I think it was, even for people that are not really interested in improv, it was such a great life skill to learn, and such a fun class to take. So class recommendations, there you go.
What are you guys thinking about?
I'm personally interested also in writing and producing. But I know that's a very different thing in TV and film and the theater. But
is that what you're thinking about in theater, though? Or are you thinking film and TV at all?
I don't really know.
Okay. So you're trying to figure that out right now. Okay.
It's good. I mean, there are a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, I would say the theater. I have friends that do theater down here. It's a very, very small group down in Los Angeles. I mean, the theater scene is really in New York. I'm happy to introduce you to people that have done Ram's Head that are trying to do it in New York as well. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough, I will say. But there are people that have had success with it. I know Merritt Bear was an executive producer on a couple big Broadway musicals, but he used his like consulting background to help fund some of them. And then I know a woman named Lisa Kerner who produced Aida when we did it on campus through Ram's Head, and she works for this thing called the 42nd Street or 52nd Street Project. That's kind of a theater nonprofit in New York that she loves, that has a lot of outside funding from everyone from Fran McDormand and the Coen brothers to Jonathan Groff and all those sorts of people. So, but yes, producing in film versus TV versus theater are all very different. I mean, when I was in school, even kind of going on the Hollywood trip or thinking what I wanted to do down here, I wanted to be an executive producer for television, and I didn't really realize that most of those producing credits on there, you have to be a writer. You can't really be a non-writing producer on most television shows. It's very, very, it's a very tricky, hard group to get into, if you will. So.
How about you guys? What are you thinking about?
I'm interested in product placement and entertainment.
Ooh, product placement.
That is a growing marketplace. I literally just it's funny that you mentioned that, because I just was speaking with the woman at the premiere on Friday who did the product placement in Pitch Perfect 2. And there was a bunch of it. So, but it was done like in a very smart way that I didn't really notice it. But I think those brand partnerships are a really lucrative thing going on with the big studios in general. So.
Do you know anyone that does that down there?
Yeah, I mean, I could put you in touch with the person that I was just talking about. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, you just said that. Okay, sorry. You just said that you knew someone. Okay, and how about you? You don't know. You're just here to learn.
Here to take it all in.
Learning. You're just taking it all in.
Here to hear me yammer on.
I mean, I've done film writing. I haven't done much here, but I'm interested to know like if what I could ever do with that. I mean, I still don't know what I'm gonna do.
You're a freshman.
Yeah.
It's really okay. But,
yeah.
So it sounds like film writing.
What do you mean? But do you mean like writing about films, or do you mean like actual screenplay writing?
Screenplays, yeah, scripts.
Yeah.
We had we created short films for the like film festival for our school or with other schools too. And so it would be like 8 to 10 minute films that we would write, and I wrote the screenplay for one of them, or like multiple screenplays, but one that went to the film festival.
Yeah,
and it was really fun.
Well, and does Stanford still have like a film festival in the spring?
Yeah, there's the student screening though.
Okay.
Winter this year, I think.
Yeah, because that was always I mean, I shot a short film when I was in school there. That still lives on YouTube somewhere that people will dredge up later. Yeah, but like what opportunity? I mean, I think there are a lot of opportunities that can still come of it. So
I know you guys have a 5:30 meeting in that room.
Yes.
Anna told me. So you need to scoot. But I am guessing, I didn't ask you this in advance, but I'm guessing if any of these guys want to talk to you, you can. I can give them your email address.
Yeah, pass along my email address for sure.
Okay, I should have asked you that in advance, but that's okay.
No, don't
and
even.
Then it sounds like too, like you know a lot of people. So if these guys have, from today, if introductions or those kinds of things, you'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, happy to.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Jason.
No, thank you
feel like I was on. Yeah, and it was, this is an experiment to have you over Blue Jeans, but I feel like but you're great. You really kept my attention.
I hope so. I hope so. I know it's Monday, so.
I know, Monday at 4:30. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
So,
thank you for setting it up. Thanks.
you are so
and take my contact information, and feel free to reach out if I don't hit you back. Eventually, I will eventually. So I always respond.
Is it okay if they ping you a second time?
Totally, absolutely.
Okay, I figured as much. I like that when people do that for me. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Jason. It was wonderful to meet you over the
enjoy spring quarter
network. Thank you. Okay. Bye. Okay. Bye. Okay. How was that, you guys? Was that kind of?
It probably ended from
mine. Oh yeah. Yeah.